Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4, and today spawning in on the east side of the map playing in blue, we've got Beastyqt playing as the English, and his opponent on the west side of the map playing in red, we've got Wham01 playing as the Japanese. Welcome everyone to Lipany. That's the map for today, featuring two of the very best players in the world, of course Wham and Beastyqt, and also two incredibly strong civilizations in the Japanese and the English. Lots to talk about on this one. We've got the English, of course, with the cheaper farms and the faster gathering of food. The Japanese have the free farms with the Cura storehouse, so it's definitely going to be a farming affair here with the Japanese with those free farms and Cura storehouse. It makes them a lot smoother in some ways in terms of transition into the Castle Age, and when they need to come off the pocket economies, which they don't necessarily have to rely on. I've got to say the same thing for the English, and I do feel like this civilization matchup does lend itself well to a late game situation. There's lots to unpack with this one. Of course, the English can opt to go for the Abbey of the Kings build, often opting for that landmark, getting a king nice and early to put some pressure on, get a bit of map positioning and control, and then work from there. The Japanese often tend to play a little bit more conservative with their second town centre placement if they need to, or for a castle age. We will see what they try to do. I think in many ways, the civilizations, some of them just choose what they want to do, and then it's up to their enemies to try and stop it. And it feels like at this point, the English are kind of heading that situation where they say, hey, look, we're going to go to town centres with the Abbey of Kings, and then we're going to go to the Castle Age with the White Tower, and it's up to you to try and stop it. The Japanese, will they have the tools to stop it? That's the question. The question is whether they would go for a feudal age aggression with this. It's always a bit risky, right? Because the English are two town centres. It's very hard to push in against, of course, the extra arrow slits for the English. They are superb in defence with the network of castles. And you've got to also factor in, if you do that, if you play one town centre as the Japanese up against the two town centre English, and it's very hard to push up against, then it leaves you with a sort of all-in play. And so then if you don't kill your enemy in the next 15-20 minutes as one town centre, it's always going to be very difficult. And hey, if you're going to push a two town centre player up against that you're going up against, you don't really want them to be English. Because of that, it will often be the Japanese will look to try and match it with the second town centre themselves, and he is actually looking to go on stone now here, Wham, so definitely telegraphing that at this point. And he will be building that Cura storehouse, and of course Beastie going for the Abbey of the Kings. It's a landmark that we love to see, and we're seeing it again. And the English king will be looking to put some pressure. The great thing about the king is that it's free. So it comes out on the map, puts some pressure on your enemy, and helps you get that second town centre up really nicely. The question is, where does he place that second town centre? He can be relatively expansive with it at times, because of course the king allows you to do that. It's very hard for your opponent to pressurise that. The Japanese, on the other hand, if they go for a second town centre, they always have to be wary of the king stopping it. And so often has to be a little bit more conservative. Could potentially look to put it on gold. A lot of players do actually do that. They often do go for the second town centre on gold to help them get to the Castle Age. It's always an option. The nice thing about the Japanese, by the way, when they do gather stone, they also do gather a little bit of gold. And that helps them on their way to the Castle Age as well at some point. Now, I would love to say a very big thank you for everyone supporting the channel, whether it be on Twitch and YouTube. You guys are absolute legends. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And speaking about progress, we've had a lot of growth on the channel. And progress in this match, we've had the feudal age come in already for Beastie. So that king can be queuing on up and moving out soon. Now Wham will spot the stone being mined out here. And that second town centre, the Cura storehouse, just about to be built. Beastie's scout just torching down the farmhouse, keeping active, keeping busy. King moving across the map. Now with the play into the second town centre for Beastie, it's almost done by the way. Does mean that the question is where he's going to place it. Often we'll see it on gold, and that'll help him get to the castle age, but we'll have to get confirmation of that. The king now making his way across. Might be going around the back to try and pick off some villagers on the wood line. We'll have to see. Japanese, they have enough stone for that second town centre. Now going over to the wood, of course. You need 350 stone for a second town centre, 400 wood. Is overgathered a little bit. That could potentially be for arrow slits on an outpost or two. It could potentially be just queuing up or gathering up, banking up stone for the Daimyo Manor. A really strong upgrade for the town centre. It really synergizes well with the Kura Storehouse farms. Increases the gather rate of food from the farms by 25%. It's certainly a heavy one. Alright, there's a second town centre play here for Beastie on the wood line as it happens. And you should be able to get a nice patch of farms in between the two town centres. Interestingly, not going for it on gold. Often we would expect that, but he's going for the wood for now. Not that it necessarily matters. I think it matters a lot more for the Japanese to secure gold if they can, but it looks like, in fact, he has to go for the wood. I mean, ultimately, he doesn't really have a choice. Can't really place the town centre in a position where he's safe from the English king, so if he was going to go for gold, that is. So it places it on the wood line instead, and very close and tight packed together. Now the English, they should be able to freely gather gold at this point because they've got all the map positioning with the king. I wouldn't necessarily call it control. I mean, you've got one unit, I guess, in a way. But he's making it count for a lot. He's getting the farmhouse down. It's on fire. And there it is. Burns down. Gonna go for a villager there. Does garrison inside the Kura Storehouse. By the way, there used to actually be 8 garrisonable spots inside the Kura Storehouse. Now it's just 4. So it makes it a little bit more vulnerable as a landmark. Now he is transitioning onto gold. Now that could be for 2 reasons. Wait a minute. He's got another 380 stone here, Beastie. That can only mean for another 3rd town centre. That's kind of crazy. That's not what we would have expected. So it's going to be a 3 town centre play for the English. Right on the deer camp as well. Now with that unexpected play, I mean, it kind of makes a sense in a lot of ways, because how do you push that? It's very difficult for the Japanese to really push this. And the town centre placement on food is an incredible source of resources just saved there. Or protected, I should say. He ran quite close for comfort there, the king. Didn't manage to get a villager. Oh, there's a villager on 1 HP. Manages to survive with it though, wham. That's kind of crazy. Because, you know, not losing villagers with the king running around, it's pretty impressive that Wham's been able to keep that alive and also get enough stone. Almost. For the Daimyo Man. Not quite, actually. Just needs a bit more, but if he's mining gold, he should be able to get that. Does have an outpost, but not enough for arrow slits at this point. And I don't think Wham knows about this 3rd town centre. It's even going to be able to get the boar here, Beastie. It's going to be a great amount of food coming on in. Garrison's inside the outpost, and the king can only hang out here for so long. Going to be adding a barracks alongside the stable. I would love to see an Uma Bannerman, a pretty strong unit actually in the feudal age. Looking to get a couple of spearmen to try and contest this knight, or English king I should say. Manages to save another villager in the Kura Storehouse, but probably has to pull that villager away from the farms. It's very exposed, and that's exactly what happens. Goes back to the middle of the town centre, or at least the safer farm. They switch things up a little bit. With a 3rd town centre now for Beastie, that's going to be able to increase the villager count relatively quickly. He's going to get that villager lead. But by the time the Japanese actually get out there and spot it, he's not going to be able to change his plan. It looks like he's going to go for a bit of feudal age aggression. Which is actually kind of curious, right? Because he's going to try and put some pressure, but whether he's going to be able to do enough or not, that's the question. But he is still staying with 9 villages on gold himself, so certainly is queuing up or eyeing up Castle Age at some point. Gotta keep the scout away, and the English shouldn't be too far behind to that Castle Age if he does aim to get there. Gonna go for an outpost on that gold there, BC, just to make sure that gold is safely gathered. I've got to say, these walls on the west side is such a nice positioning. It saves a lot here in terms of the deer camp and the berries. Really nice, safe and secure. Exactly what he would want. It's a great position, actually. Now, let's talk about Castle Age. So, the English going for the Castle Age most certainly will go for the White Tower. No real surprise. It's got to be, really. You won't go for a 4th town centre. And so the White Tower will offer a lot of protection. That gives the English a lot of breathing space to stay alive until sort of the early Imperial Age even. It can last that long, that protection. The Japanese, with the Castle Age timing, they'll want to get some of those relics off the map. Also get some Yorishiro and some key structures. Potentially, you know, the forge. If you get Yorishiro inside the forge, that gives you gold trickling in for the rest of the game. That scout, dangerously low on health, but will be able to repair himself and heal himself up. It will be the floating gate landmark first for the Japanese. And it's going to have a decent lead time on the castle stage. The question is, will it be able to get this lion's share of the relics? Certainly won't be able to get this one. This one nice, safe and I say that, but you never know actually. Nice, safe and secure behind the palisades for the English. Does now have the Daimyo Manor as well, so 25% gather speed on these farms. It's going to be a really nice boost of economy. Now bear in mind, whilst it's not necessarily a huge problem for the English because their farms are cheaper, we talk about transitions onto food. The Japanese already have the farming transition like sort of half underway, right? It's a really smooth play. It means they can keep making units rather than having to invest wood into farms and delay unit production for a short while. The English, on the other hand, don't have that luxury. But of course, the English farms, they are built different. Well, they're built cheaper, for one, and they gather more food. So it's definitely not the worst thing for the English. There's a lot of other civilizations that have much harder farming transitions. The English are kind of halfway in that regard. Bannerman just chasing down a scout. That's great for Beastie. He just needs to buy as much time as he possibly can, getting the palisade walls up, and knowing that the Japanese are in the castle age ahead of him, he's always going to be concerned about the potential of units heading across the field. We do now start to see some of those Shinto priests on the field to look to pick up those relics. Now, if he does pick up this one in the middle, that's actually a big pick-off. Now, one thing that the English do, this is a thing with the English to be fair, when they play very kind of greedy in this way, they tend to lose their share of the relics. There is the White Tower for Beastie, and he is starting that farming transition now. And the farming transition coming in now means that, well, he's not going to be able to put so much pressure on the map. It's going to open up with crossbowmen, because he's going to be concerned about heavily armoured units. Doesn't feel confident being able to outnumber the Japanese, and that's for a good reason. Because Yorishiro can be deposited in production buildings, as we see here in the stable, increasing the production speed by 200%. That is a hefty bonus. Should be able to pump out units really quickly. One Yorishiro, one relic rather, picked up, and it's going to be put in the monastery he's going to have to build at some point. Now, I believe there was once a time where you can actually put relics inside the floating gate landmark. That was a crazy situation, but instead he's going to have to just build one monastery, or even just put the relic in. Yeah, he's already built one actually, so he's going to get that one in. Then look to get some relics. Maybe trying to burn down the palisades on the right side to pick up that relic and steal it. Look to see, look to pick up the relic on the west side. Maybe Spearman going to be guarding. But Beastie pretty much fully walled up now, so he's going to turtle up and try and get a good economy. Now, if it does go to the late game, the kind of crazy thing about the English, of course, they've got enclosures, which gives them good passive gold income. But it's going to be somewhat negated by the relics that I'm sure are going to be picked up by Wham at some point pretty quickly. But the kind of interesting thing is that late game Japanese, it could be really powerful with the Yorishiro inside the forges. Of course, late game is very much determined by gold situations. Gold's, of course, funds for the premium units, and I suspect he'll want to get as many of the Yorishiro inside the forges as possible. King gets a bit of a charge and the backs on out. Has to, really. Yeah, the monk's struggling to get out of there. The Shinto priest making his way across the map to get the gold in the form of the relic. Does lose the king in the end there, Beastie, so one less unit, but crossbows might actually try and push this back, but it might be a little bit too late. Because the Shinto priest is picking up the relic and making his way back home. Now bear in mind, Wham never really needs to take a fight. Now if he can feel confident about his late game, then really there's no pressure for him to push on in. Going to pick up another relic, so it's going to be a 4 relic game, which is actually really big for the Japanese, because what you don't want to have is an even split of relics, right? You know the English are going to have a bit of an edge in terms of gold income from the enclosures, but if you've got 4 relics, well, hey, that goes a long way. And bear in mind, it's actually more population efficient, because sure, gold income from the farms is great, but it's not like, you have to have like about 80, 85 farms for it to give you about 1,500 gold, that kind of thing, which is per minute, that is. Which is pretty decent. That's probably enough to sustain your Imperial age. But bear in mind, you still need villagers actively working. Bear in mind, you are getting 2 for 1 in terms of resources, which is definitely great. But it's not going to be beating the relics, ideally. I mean, yeah, mathematically, it's just not. The relics definitely help there. Bear in mind, you can add in the forges too. And if it does have Yorishiro inside them, it doesn't have any just yet. just the Attrition inside the stable, and one in the barracks. Third relic in. Beasty going to pick up his first one, the one that was inside his base. He's building a decent number of units here though, because he was obviously playing 2 town center, does have a decent amount of banked up resources, going to be torching things down, going to be having in a raiding unit, the veteran on a Beastyqt, which incidentally do get kind of melted by ranged units. But not that Beasty seems to have all that many in this position just yet, but they're heading that way with the crossbows, a couple of man-at-arms popping out too. Now, this is kind of curious, right, because the Honor Beastyqt are going to get a couple of villagers there, and then head on back out. English king is back, but he gets surrounded. He gets taken down for the second time in the game, and Beasty losing out on the king. Does have a 20 villager lead. It's been broken into on the right side as well with the mounted samurai. Now, this is the great thing about Wham's army. He can be in multiple places at once, and if you can get hold of this gold, actually that 8,000 tile gold vein is actually quite important. It's quite critical for the next sort of 15-20 minutes because, you know, there's no enclosures right yet for Beasty, so he wants that gold. There's a gold on the east side as well, which again the mounted samurai putting some pressure on. He's got what he needs, Beasty, to secure it up. He's got a decent number of crossbowmen. Now, what does Wham do against that? I mean, Honor Beastyqt in a way aren't necessarily the perfect counter unit in terms of obviously they actually take a lot of damage from ranged units. But in terms of movement speed, if they can gap close, it's actually not too terrible. Of course, horsemen would be the better option. But going up against man-at-arms, those will struggle. And lots of Honor Beastyqt here. Holy moly. 35 of them there for Wham. Does now have the Shogunate Castle, which is actually huge. That's going to give him an additional 75% gather rate on the farm. So when we talk about farming efficiency with the English, well, you know, they're cheaper, sure, but that's just a one-off cost. 75% gather rate on these farms is incredible. Building up a massive units now with the Katana Bannerman. Snipes that English unit in a second. Now behind this, it looks like it's going to be an Imperial Age coming in for both players, to be fair. Beasty should get there a little bit quicker, depending on how many villages he used to build it. The Japanese are going to look to put a bit of pressure in the north. Then maybe torch his way through. I'd like to say a very big thank you, by the way, guys, on Twitch. You guys are sticking around and all the follows. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate the support. And on YouTube, if you guys do enjoy live streaming, live casts, I do stream live on Twitch, predominantly. But I do have a separate YouTube channel where I stream to as well. Not the same as the main YouTube channel, because I don't want to mess things up there, really, in terms of algorithm. Speaking of messing things up, well, Wham tried to mess things up in the English base with the Honor Beastyqt, but never really managed to break it through and cause too much damage. Mounted Samurai putting some pressure on the right side. Man-at-arms numbers starting to build up and escalate. Beasty going up with the Berkshire Palace to really protect that economy. He doesn't want to get pushed, and that's definitely a good, strong defensive position. Look at this. 3 town centers, a White Tower, and a Berkshire Palace. That would be very hard for the Japanese to push on through. Now, one particular unit that he could go for is maybe the Ozutsu, and he can get that from the Tanegashima Gunsmith. He's going to get to the next stage relatively soon. He's actually got all 3 sacred sites. The question is whether he'll be able to keep that for long enough or not. I'm not so sure. I'm not convinced he will, really. I'm sure Beasty will come out with a big push out soon, because that's what the English do really well. They do this, actually. They get to the Imperial Age, and then they really start to get heavily armoured units. They get enclosures, it supplies them with the food and gold they need, and you can almost see that starting to happen. Now, Wham does have 79 military units on the field, but he does have to back away because Honor Beastyqt, you know, it's a 1-unit army here, really, and he can't really contest what he's got up against, especially with the elite upgrades coming on soon. And enclosures has been queued up for Beasty. Bit of a clear up on the east side, though, so I mean, Beasty has to be a little bit careful about this mounted samurai running around, although they're mostly patrolling. Well, hello. What are they up to? They're going crazy. Right, they found their way into the walls now. They needed a map, maybe. And there's that switch to the samurai. A lovely unit for the Japanese. In fact, at this point, let's take a look at the income per minute. 1,300 gold per minute. Just 100 gold per minute for the English is not great. Does have a decent number of farms, but enclosures only just about to come on in, and yeah, that village is going on to gold. He's going to keep a keep there just to protect the gold. I think it's a smart move, right? Because the last thing you want to do is run out of gold, but running into the Berkshire Palace is not ideal. But he's causing some raiding value, so you're going to try and kill the economy as much as he possibly can. But with 3 town centres, it shouldn't be too bad with him trying to boom back up again. Or at least get the villager count back up again for Beastyqt. And the elite status upgrade comes in for the Honor Beastyqt. And they're just running on in. He doesn't seem to care. Beastyqt, though, on the other hand, feels like attack is the best form of defense and is going to send his army that way as well, right into the Japanese forward position. No walls here, but does have the Shogunate Castle, which acts as a really good defensive stronghold for that capital town centre. Beastyqt should get one more villager, but that'll be it. Look at the defensive stronghold, really. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. It's being pushed pretty heavily. On top of that wood line, so the pushback is coming on in. The first time since really the king made the first appearance on the map. Are the English now putting some pressure, but it's got a lot of samurai, got the defender's advantage, of course. It's got the Shogunate Castle, it's got a mangonel or 2 actually, in fact. It would definitely be helpful if you can protect the mangonels, he'll be in a good spot. This is where things get a little bit tricky for the English to really do some killer damage, because he doesn't have any siege behind this, right? Now he does have the crossbows, which is what he's wanting against the samurai, but it just feels like the samurai numbers are looking a little bit too hefty, especially with the bonus of the katana bannerman. Going to give them the extra 15% attack damage once they do get on top of the crossbows. Crossbows slowly going to be chipping away at these units. And Wham has to back on away. Gold secured in the north. Stone is being mined in the southeast. And look at that. Look at the income. Beastyqt can afford Imperial Age once again. Japanese going to be getting burn right. And that's going to give him an additional 2 Yorishiro, which is actually really significant, by the way, because at this stage, when you're seeing the clock, 22 minutes in the game, both players in the Imperial Age, almost, yeah, both players are population maxed out pretty much. The Yorishiro certainly will be going on the forges. Like, that's really what he needs to do. He's that passive gold generation. He's got 4 relics, which is absolutely fantastic. And I mean, you count the blessings of the enclosures tech up for the English, but when you factor in that Japanese have got 4 relics, he's about to get 2 additional Yorishiro to put inside forges. It becomes difficult for the English to match that gold income. Doesn't manage to get the stone walls up on the west side in the end, and crossbows will be firing behind the palisade walls. He's going to try and break through the palisade walls here, Wham. Get there in a blink of an eye and try and get on top of those crossbows if he can. He's kind of stuck with the man-at-arms first, dealing with those, but then he will be moving further forward. He does have the network of citadels upgrade. The English going to give that increased attack speed by 40%. Pretty decent overall, of course. Crossbows going to be coming into the choke point, just leading the army back towards the Berkshire Palace. Walling up on the east side, being denied though by a couple of man-at-arms. Villagers on gold here down in the south, being pressurized. Beastyqt obviously targeting the 8,000 gold vein. Back at home though, he is being raided pretty heavily. But again, depending on really if the villagers are all safe and secure, and I mean, to be fair, they're behind the Berkshire Palace, so it's going to be difficult for Wham to do significant damage. I think Wham needs to think about getting siege to do some major structural damage, but in the meantime, he just wants to keep his enemy preoccupied and busy whilst he sorts his eco back at home. Look at the farming, holy moly. And this is all 75% bonus gathering rates on them. So when you think about late Imperial Age, you think about food and gold, and well, the food and gold is in abundance for the Japanese when they've got 4 relics and Yorishiro and the 75% bonus on the farm gather rate. It's absolutely immense. He's got the Tanagishima Gunsmith as well, so when we talk about being aggressive and pushing and think about siege damage and taking out infrastructure, those also could come in clutch for the Japanese. Just wants to clear this out first though, which I'm sure he will pretty soon. There we go, most of those man-at-arms are dying. He's getting a couple of villages here, Beastyqt. Now back up in the north. Moving on the gold villages there on the west side. Looks like the Japanese trying to mop up every bit of gold that they can. Unfortunately, got caught out on that one. Not the end of the world. Alright, man-at-arms going to be absolutely trunched by these samurai. Being pulled away a little bit. I like this play by Beastie, right? He's dragging the samurai away just so that the crossbow can get a maximum damage. It's splitting up the army, bringing some back home to protect the mangonel. The mangonel will be able to do some damage against the crossbows as long as they stay safe and secure. Beastie, speaking of security, is trying to secure up this gold vein and stone vein, which is actually pretty hefty. Good amount of resources being kept alive and safe, and this is where the Honor Brigade should get on top of things, right on top of the man-at-arms and crossbows here. Mangonel on the back line doing all sorts of damage, and it looks like Beastie won't be able to win this fight in the end. Wait, Mangonel coming in on the east side. Oh, he might lose a Mangonel or two here. Wham, unfortunate. Does get a last shot off on the man's arms, but they retreat on out of there. Going to deny the walls going up. Wham, trying to secure that gold vein, but won't be able to now. Beastie going to put a palisade wall as well just to make sure he doesn't rebuild that. Honor Brigade doing all sorts of damage to the man side, but they're pretty tanky overall. Alright, well, going to get lightweight beams, going to be increased battering rate, ram attack speed, and also reducing their field construction by 50%. So maybe that's where he does siege damage. Maybe it's mass rams instead of going for a Zutsu. The great thing about Honor Brigade though is that they're good at dealing with the raids, right? They can always catch up. Movement speed is pretty decent with them, and they've got some good melee damage on them. They keep in a good spot here for Beastie. Still got the 8,000 gold vein here. 5,000 still left on it. Of course, Sacred Site was decamped quite a while ago. Now it's pushing into the farms, but with the Shogunate Castle, should be okay with that. The enclosures bringing a decent amount of gold in, about 1,400 gold per minute overall, with the mining coming in as well. Japanese forced home just to deal with the raids. This could be an important portion of the map actually. This 8,000 gold vein for the Japanese, and not heavily mining it. Slowly trickling in the gold coming on in. And Beastie definitely hellbent on keeping this gold safe. Understandably, because these are the kind of two neutral golds that both players are obviously going to be fighting heavily over. That's exactly what they're doing right now. The Japanese though, 70 military. So this is where things become really interesting, right? We talk about population efficiency, and that's actually going to factor a lot in this match because, well, once you've got banked up with resources, then it comes down to how many military units you have, and also the quality of the units, of course. That definitely heavily factors into that. Adding on a Brigade behind Samurai really helps the melee mosh pit fights, because the Honor Brigade have that extra range, so they can always fight on the shoulders of their Samurai brethren and dish out all sorts of damage, whereas Beastie's man-at-arms, they have to have a good clean contact with the enemy front line before they can, do damage, and there's no backline really in terms of close by melee units. Maybe range units is something he has to go for, maybe longbowmen could be an option. But when you do engage in sort of late game warfare as the English, longbowmen, their range advantage, that's really what they're about. It doesn't really necessarily come into play all that much if you're facing up against the Japanese that are just hurling units at you. Sure, you get the first attack a little bit earlier, but once the gap is closed, they're just as good as archers in a way. Samurai going to clear up what remains here. English King leading some units across, but the English King dies pretty quickly to the Shogunate Castle. Rest of the man-at-arms take it upon themselves to try and kill as many Japanese villagers as possible. Gets a couple, but ultimately Wham will deal with that. Moving on the east side, so the Rams are there to try and take down the keep and try and get hold of this position, and quite possibly will. Does have a decent number of Honor Brigade, although actually the village is going to come out to torch the Rams, and with the keep being able to produce units as well, and lots of garrisonal spots, he should be okay at defending that little bit of a push. And Wham's going to have to come up with a second wave with Samurai on the east side and then push on once again. Look how many farms he's got. Holy moly. In fact, we'll take a look in a moment because there's definitely some action coming here on the southeast. Obviously Wham trying to deny that gold vein as much as possible. We're heading in somewhat Zutsu. The unit that we'd love to see for the Japanese, I certainly do. He's going to start taking down the keep. Now, he could use the torches, but does he have boiling oil? He does, so... I mean, the boiling oil isn't as good as it once used to be, but it's a pretty hefty, good upgrade. He's going to try and kill the villagers with the melee units, which is definitely the right move. Otherwise, Beastie might try and just repair this keep indefinitely. Although, if you do feel confident about taking the keep position, you may want actually Beastie to try and sink in some stone into that repairs. You feel confident about taking out, but look at this now, adding in some hand cannoneers with the man-at-arms. I love the play actually. It makes a lot of sense because of course the English do rely on food and gold units really predominantly in this kind of situation with the farms, you know, gathering both gold and, well, food. So man-at-arms and hand cannoneers definitely a good move, and that's a lot of Azutsu, holy moly. 13 of them. The keeps will go down in no time. He needs a bit more of a front line though. If those Azutsu get taken down, could be problematic. Speaking about problematic, there's a bit of a problem here for Wham. Man-at-arms in good numbers, going to be fighting in the choke point. I'm not sure entirely who that actually helps. I think it helps the hand cannoneers and the English, although there's another couple of samurai around the back trying to get on top of the hand cannoneers. And he's doing just that. It should be clearer here for the Japanese just because of sheer numbers, but I think with good micro, Beastie might get some really good value. Gonna try and back away with the hand cannoneers as much as possible. But yeah, the samurai are gonna overwhelm the man-at-arms in this spot, and then once the man-at-arms are done and dealt with, the samurai, they're gonna chase after the hand cannoneers. English gonna try and back away as much as possible, get as much value as possible, but of course these guys will die a painful death at the hands of the samurai. English getting in a keep down the middle just to make sure that area is safe and secure, because you kind of feel there could be a push coming in soon. The big concern though, the number of Azutsu that Wham had. Probably going to be pushing through pretty heavily. Takes out keep there in the front lines quite quickly. English King trying to do their best to deal with it though. Does lose the keep in the end. English King on his last limbs. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Azutsu just target him. He does manage to back away in the end. Samurai going right down the middle, and now wood could become a problem, right? Both players will need wood as the game goes on. And that's a position that Beastie would have loved to keep secured. That keep might go down soon though with the number of units in this position. He's just joining up the forces once again. And the samurai, they just know no mercy. They get pushing on in, doing as much damage as they possibly can. Starting to be overrun a little bit here, the English. Hand cannoneers on the back line, trying to take out as many samurai as they possibly can. Man-at-arms trying to buy as much time as they can for the hand cannoneers to do their work. I think at this point, with the defender's advantage, the samurai do have to head back home. He's going to turn around and take the fight underneath the keep. I don't think this is a fight they can necessarily win here. Maybe just try and take a good trade. It looks like the samurai are sacrificing themselves for the greater good. English, they don't see what's happening beyond the walls. Beyond the walls, we do start to see some rams popping forward down even in the middle. Maybe more of a distraction, because I think the Azutsu are the show-stopping unit here for the Japanese. They're probably going to be the most influential. What's going on? Wait a minute! Beastie going for a proxy barracks push around the back, and that's actually kind of concerned because there's only palisades here, so Wham could be under a lot of pressure. But the only concern for Beastie is if he invests population space down in the south of raiding, well, he's going to be pushed forward in the middle. That's not really necessarily what he wants. Oh, a couple of man-at-arms on that wood line. Samurai should be able to do with that eventually. English though, with the pushback, Beastie starting to repair that keep once again. He should be able to keep it safe at this point. But you can see the population. I mean, that's a lot of food banked up for Beastie. Not as much gold. Gold is doing superbly well for the Japanese. It's because he's taking this gold as well. Managing to get the stone wall up in the end on the right side. He's got a little bit of the gold there. Not much. I think we're starting to see the players run out of gold income in terms of mineable gold. So then it comes down to passive gold generation, and I feel like the Japanese in a good way, as long as he gets Yorishiro inside the forges, he'll be fine in terms of gold income. He doesn't necessarily have all the Yorishiro he wants though. I mean, he's got a couple of Yorishiro inside the barracks. Oh well, there they are. That's where the gold's coming in from. 3 forges on the Yorishiro as well. Going to be getting a very nice 25 gold every 15 seconds, I believe. So yeah, 75 gold per minute. Pretty hefty. Every 20 seconds, then that makes it. There's also getting so much damage on that, by the way. So much splash damage. Units trying to camp up on the top of the walls for Beastie, but it loses all of them, really. The samurai are going to torch through the palisades and then try and make their way through. This keep is under a lot of fire there. The Ozutsu and the Rams. It feels like now Beastie can't hold his position. Does have a couple of reborn quiz. They're going to rip through the Manata. Well, the samurai, really. Villagers getting in front of them, just looking to maybe repair the raw border coin if they are jumped on. Looks like the Ozutsu going to be relied upon to try and take those border coins down, but can't get close enough. Well, there we go. Oh god, this could be dangerous. Oh god, he's going to lose a lot of them. Oh god, okay. It's a massacre on the samurai. The border coin's getting so much damage there for Beastie. Holy moly, well, just as well he made that unit. Lovely unit, of course. Don't see that all that often. Well, villagers could come out to repair, maybe not. Villagers looking to torch down the Ram. Yeah, they were being used to repair, but didn't quite make it in on time. And the Ozutsu, a decent number of them still live. But the push grinds to halt once again. This area, he's banking up. It doesn't have the population, right? He's having to hold it in the middle of the base. So can't quite build up the units he'd want here in the forward push. Side push, the raiding push. Looks like he's cheekily going to try and take that sacred site. I'm sure the man-at-arms might go on top of that. Right in front of his face, by the way. Wham, just trying to carve up the map and play the late game. No, this could go on all day. Hope not. And it might just. I mean, the kind of crazy thing is that this could turn into a big wood game. Because whoever runs out of wood first could be, it could be difficult for them. Alright, he spots it now. Wham. He knows that there's a base cheekily here, and Beastie won't be able to keep that running for too much longer. But Beastie will be able to focus on everything down the middle. Now is a good time, knowing that Wham has sent quite a decent amount of units here on the south. He's even cheekily taking some wood here, which doesn't belong to him. I guess it's up for grabs at least, and he's going to be starting to get some Rams now himself, Beastie. Now, for a long time, Beastie has had a much healthier population. 154 to 107 does mean they should have technically better banked up resources. The bigger deal, though, is that despite having 2,000 gold per minute, I mean, in fact, let's just see how many villagers they have in gold each, because, yeah, that's it, really. 17 villagers on gold versus 6. And I kind of would be interested to see what the gold income will be like when both players have 0 villagers on gold. I think that will be quite telling for how the game might pan out. Villagers looking to repair the walls. The Ram gets absolutely decimated by the elite samurai. We're now trying to chase down the man-at-arms. They're trying to back away. Does have a couple of Ozutsu maybe chasing forward as well. Yeah, they're joining the fight. A couple of hand cannoneers for the English. It's backing away here, Beastie. On the right side, though, the Japanese looking to put some pressure. This could be devastating, actually. There's a lot of Japanese elite samurai, which probably won't mind diving in. It took the keep out earlier, so if he takes out villagers on farms, the bigger problem is that, well, Beastie's gold economy is very much tied to the farms at the moment. So if he loses farms, if he loses a gathering from the farms, he loses gold income too. So it's more than just food being lost here. It's also gold. Oh, on the west side, oh, villagers might be taken down. There's one samurai peeled off there for Wham, getting lots of value, and Beastie is quite likely to lose a couple of villagers. Magadal deploys on one samurai. A massive raiding party here down the back. And whilst a lot of the farms are protected by the Berkshire, there are a handful of farms that just aren't. That's a lot of farms idled, guys, and now he does have a lot of resources banked up, but oh god, those villagers absolutely decimated. Just feels like Wham's got units everywhere, right? He's got 86 of them. Farms being idled. Villagers are now going back onto the farms once again, but the gold bank is looking a bit dire. 600 gold per minute. It's all coming down to that raid. Now, if Wham can do that a couple more times, then gold will certainly be an issue for Beastie. Starting to build up a massive mangonels. Maybe that's a way of dealing with the samurai, but the Japanese just seem to keep pumping in units. Now let's talk about wood lines. That's probably a key issue. I think WAM just has better wood lines actually, considering the map generation, map spawn. There's a couple of wood, yeah, there's a bit of wood here, but not a huge amounts. There's this big chunk of wood here that WAM could look to take. A few walls in front of it as well. It'd be nice, safe and secure. It's getting outposts as well, just for the extra vision. Yeah, wood is definitely going to be in the position for WAM, better position for him. And that gives Beasty a bit of a problem, although, to be fair, most of his army is going to cost food and gold anyway. Ah, yeah, I can. Yeah, the animation bug. I've noticed that a couple of times. I think as well when they fire with their short bows, they still actually carry the log at the same time, apparently. That's kind of funny. If you guys are wondering on Twitch, on YouTube, rather, what I'm talking about, well, I'm streaming live on Twitch these days as well, so it's worth checking out if you're interested in it. Looks like he's going to be pushing on the right side once again. Now, actually, you know, a lot of the times you won't really want to be bogged down with taking down production buildings, but in this scenario when wood is starting to become an issue, maybe that's the play actually, because you do want to take out as many villages as you can, but taking out production buildings always helps. Primarily because they're running out of wood in some ways on the map, and that could play into the hands of the game in the long term. Also, you don't want your enemy being able to reinforce army and get hold of that defender's advantage, which they are now looking to use here, Beasty. Gonna need that defender's advantage to deal with these mounted samurai. This amount of samurai, I should say, not mounted samurai. That's an entirely different unit, of course. So you're gonna try another forward production building proxy base thing again. Yeah, but the Beastyqt Palace getting so much value. Forcing the English back home, this is exactly what the Japanese want to do, right? They want to suffocate the English, just do as much damage as possible. Look at the gold income for the Japanese. Actually incredible. He's got 3 villages on gold, but he's still getting 1,300 gold per minute. Samurai going straight head-to-head against the man-at-arms. Beastyqt Palace, though, going to get a decent amount of value with that. Samurai just going to look to trade off, and now the kind of crazy situation is when you're thinking about how this is matching up, you want to see the gold income passive generation here, because we're heading to the stage of the game where actually, I don't think anyone yet, no one's mining any gold. All the gold has evaporated, has been taken off the map. It's a scarce resource, and now it's all down to passive generation. It looks like Beasty, with the number of farms he's got, is only getting 600 odd gold per minute. WAM is getting 900. Doesn't seem like a lot, by the way, but just imagine your enemy getting extra 300 gold per minute for the rest of the game. It's going to add up. And don't forget as well, he's got the relics factoring into that as well. So whilst the enclosures is a very strong upgrade for the English, it's somewhat countered by the fact that he's got 4 relics and the Yorishiro. Just moving up with the force here on the east side, Beasty with a couple of man-at-arms, Beastyqt and hand cannoneers. On the west side, that's where the damage is coming in from the Japanese. Samurai with some Ozutsu around the back. That's going to be a lot of damage. That's a lot of villages going down for Beasty. Now, the concern is, whilst he does have a lot of banked up food, he doesn't have that much gold banked up here, Beasty. So losing villagers here is kind of an issue. This is where we talk about population efficiency, and it feels like the Japanese just a little bit more efficient, although army efficiency, oh god, this is not going to be looking good for the Japanese. The Beastyqt going to do all sorts of damage, but it's have 4 springles, but they can't get the shot off on top of the Beastyqt. Beastyqt getting so much value. And Beasty, it feels like he's the one who has to be aggressive, because wood is also going to become an issue very soon for him. Oh, trade. Alright, Beasty's trading. Now, in terms of the trade route, it's looking a bit dicey, and WAM is going to be walling it up as well, so going to be looking to cut off the trade route as well. I think that's a really nice attention to detail, something easily forgotten. But when you do go super late game, you've got to think about how you deny trade from your enemy. That's exactly what WAM's doing. A couple of mangonels, going to be helping out massively in this fight. It's also getting a little bit too close for comfort, potentially need to go on top of the walls more than anything. They are a ranged unit after all. Getting the elite samurai in the mix here with Katana Bannerman. On the right side, looks like Beasty trying to break through once again, look to get the sacred sites. Oh, okay, he's going for elite knights, interesting. Then we're looking to raid up. And I think that's a nice play. He's got the movement speed, but he's also got plenty of gold and food in the bank, right? At least incoming from the farms, although gold is a bit of a shortage, but he's got his eco kind of set up in that way. It's what the English love to do. But certainly since the enclosures were nerfed a couple of seasons ago, in this sort of late game situation, the English are not what they once used to be. Alright, gold income actually now kind of on par, believe it or not. The Elite Knights going around the back. He's actually making a bit of a surge here down the middle as well, Beastie. You've got a lot of units, 112, and this could be dangerous for the Japanese in a big way. He's down to 54 units. This is actually looking a bit dicey. For the first time in the game, it feels like Beastie might be starting to gather some momentum, getting some controls. Got a couple of rams added into the mix as well. Now, the big concern, though, is if the push doesn't work, then he's not going to have much gold to play around with. For a second wave, this could be dangerous. Now, with the number of knights popping forward, I mean, those knights are going to do well against the samurai, like trading off. The Zutsu are going to help out in this fight as much as they possibly can. A good number of mangonels joining the fight as well. Oh, but they might be sniped out. Those knights going around the east side, splitting them off, trying to snipe out as much of the siege as possible. The Zutsu getting good value. He needs a bit more of a meat shield in front of the Zutsu if he can. Taking the fight at the back of the base. But bear in mind, by the way, defender's advantage. Definitely going to be working out for the Japanese, so should be able to hold, and Beastie's military advantage going down in the blink of an eye. And this is a bit of a concern. Beastie doesn't have the gold to replace his army anytime soon, as Wham does. So this next push could be devastating from Wham. He's got the gold banked up, so even if gold units are lost for Wham, he can make them again. The same cannot be said for Beastie. Some of the walls have been taken down because Beastie certainly wants to be trading as much as possible. Just hasn't been able to get many traders out just yet. Here's the melee mosh pit. English Knights versus the Samurai. The Samurai really there just to try and hold on the front line as much as possible to allow the Zutsu to do what they need to do. Interesting, adding in a couple of Yumi Battermen to help out, I believe, the Zutsu. Yep, that is indeed. So, interestingly enough, it's the Yumi Batterman that affects the Zutsu for the increased attack damage. And it's switched into Horseman. Ultimately, Beastie doesn't really have a choice, doesn't have the gold income. That's where things become really a bit dicey, right? Because, you know, gold units versus just regular units is always, you're always going to favour the gold units. There's no doubt about it. Wait, Wham! His villager count just dropped massively. I think there's a good reason for it. He's pumping out units. Oh, interesting. I think he deleted that. Was that the barracks with the Euryshia inside it? It might have been. Pretty sure. Did he just delete that? Quite possibly could have. Well, this is a bit of a concern. Wham now with a good military population because of the fact it deleted villagers, and now he's going to push down through the middle. Beastie, this is a pushback that Beastie would not wanted. I think this is kind of interesting how this played out, right? Beastie came with a big push. He wanted to do significant damage, wasn't able to, and then he didn't have the bank of resources to replace the army in a big way. And so now he's having to rely on longbowmen and horsemen. Now Wham has no such problems. He's got plenty of gold in the bank, and having a hard hold, because he managed to hold that push coming in from the English, he's going to be pushing back now himself with premium gold units. I'm not so sure how Beastie holds on now. The horsemen still going to be raiding as much as they possibly can, but if Wham can just get a couple of units here, gold units, doesn't matter what it is, Samurai on a big Asia, he'd be absolutely fine as long as he just gets those units out. Yeah, Zutsu, there's so many of them, by the way. This is the big push for the Japanese. The big thing is it's not so much because he's got so many numbers, it's more about the siege. That what he does here, if he takes out production buildings, it's very difficult for Beastie to replace it. He doesn't have the wood for it, and he can't keep gathering wood. So if the Zutsu get on top of the production buildings, all the infrastructure damage being done right now is going to be immense. Beastie was never really able to do that in his push. We'll see if the Japanese can do it today and this push. 3 mangonels added into the fight as well with the Zutsu. Oh, there's a good number of horsemen around the back though. Great surround there by Beastie. Should be able to take out a lot of the siege, and that's massive. If he takes them out, he needs to take care of the Zutsu though if he can. Massive surge of man-at-arms there for Beastie. He's got the defender's advantage, of course, and he should be able to clear this out, and that's a lot of units being lost by the Japanese. Maybe he overextended, but the good thing for the Japanese coming in with another batch of samurai, and he's got plenty of resources still in the bank to be able to keep pumping out. He's still struggling with himself, but at this point it doesn't necessarily matter as long as he doesn't lose his production buildings. Horseman diving on in. Oh, Azutsu getting some value. Horseman going down the south, looking to try and get raided. Or trying to raid, rather. And Tanegashima Gunsmith. The crazy thing is, because he gets tickets, right? These guys are just free. That's something not to be overlooked, by the way, because Azutsu are not cheap. Actually, to be fair, they're pretty cheap, all things considered. But when you're getting them for free, well, why not, right? And that's the big deal. Like, he's getting free units too, in a way, and they are units he's relying on. So starting to melt the cavalry units and everything else in front of them. Good number of samurai, rather, just tanking that front line. Knights coming down the west side. Beastie trying to do his best to raid as much as possible. He's going to lose the mangonel. No, maybe not. Stays alive. Or could be sniped by those Uzutsu. We'll have to see. Should get sniped by those Uzutsu, you'd think. There it is. Wait, this is a push that's actually quite dangerous. There's a lot of samurai. Although Man-at-Arms could chew through them because of the numbers. But look at that. Another batch of samurai coming with the katana bannerman. Adding into the fight, and that could actually turn this tide. There's even more coming on in. Look at take out the ram first, and just a surge of units. Knights coming though from the back line for the English. They're trying to ride up the top of the hill, trying to take out as many samurai as possible, but just didn't seem like enough. And the samurai starting to really push on forward. This Uzutsu, well protected, does also have a couple of hand cannoneers, the Japanese, and this push is really starting to gain momentum. Beastie, he's struggling to hold this line. Bear in mind, Beastie doesn't have a huge amount of gold banked up, and the Uzutsu, if they start taking down the production buildings, he doesn't have much wood to replace him. He's really pushing hard. The Japanese sitting out in front of that third base, and, well, the population not looking too healthy for Beastie in terms of military. 121 villagers. He needs them for the economy. He's struggling with gold as it is. But wow, being able to get away with just 71 population in terms of villagers right now, maxing out on the military. He's getting a massive surge forward. Beastie down to 43 military. This is not looking good at all. But if you can find a way to hold on, maybe there's a way back into the game. You know, Samurai starting to move further forward, and maybe looks to snipe out the mangonel. Feels like the mangonel, maybe this is only option. But he needs more than just one, of course. Now he's got none. And I go on. He's fighting underneath the white tower. Bear in mind, like, the thing is with the Uzutsu, right? He's trying to repair this as much as possible. It's the Uzutsu. They're getting so much damage on this. If he takes down the white tower, that's a big start to the push on in. And he's lost the white tower. The only thing that really stands in the way is the Berkshire Palace. With the number of military units here, that might go down pretty soon as well. He is trading Beastie, but maybe not for long. He's got 83 gold coming in from them. But it looks like the trade route has been cut off at the worst possible time. He's got 50 gold in the bank, loses the white tower. Villagers on farms being denied. That means both food and gold will be struggling. Wham, on the other hand, not struggling at all in terms of food and gold. Got plenty banked up. The crazy thing is we can't put this victory, possible victory I should say, it's not over yet, but you never know. Wham's passive gold generation is good, but still Beastie has a great economy with enclosures. And I suppose a lot of his gold's coming in from trade, which is concerned because that's kind of exposed right now. Going to lose that third base, so if he does continue to lose villagers, he won't be able to replace them as easily. But it looks like the push has stalled, at least for now. As I say that though, a couple of samurai on the west side. It's going to be engaging. Looks like Beastie's held here somehow. Problem is, can he hold another push? I'm not so sure he's got much in the tank here, Beastie. Especially when it comes down to gold. Up in the north, Sacred Site has been capped by Beastie, so we get some passive gold generation that way. There's only one relic on Sacred Site. Wow, I'm pushing in once again. Now the crazy thing is that the economy is relatively similar. I mean, sure, there's a little bit more gold trickling in for Beastie, which actually could play a role if the game goes for another 20 minutes. The trade goes down though, that will change everything. Samurai are going to start to take down the white tower once again. Not for the first time in the game. It's just going to torch things down here. Which is kind of crazy, right? Brute forcing his way. Man-at-Arms trying to get on top of the Uzutsu, but Samurai are chasing. The Uzutsu do back away for now. Samurai can't get too close. Well, the Man-at-Arms can't get close enough, rather, to the Uzutsu. The Man-at-Arms will be taken down on their quest to take out the Uzutsumas. The samurai on the front lines, they've done what they needed to do. They've been able to take down the White Tower. They've done their task. But forcing Beastyqt into repairs once again. He's coming in with another wave though. Wham, just absolutely relentless. He is starting to chew through his gold though. Couple of knights going around the back, trying to get some raiding value. The question is, when he does run out of gold, I mean, where does Wham go from here? Like, what unit does he go? Could be tricky. Could potentially go for Honor Begatia. That's always an option. He's going to rely on Samurai for now. He's taking the fight. White Tower not yet built up again. And the Zutsu might take it down before it's even built up once again. Knights are trying to hold that line, but it feels like actually there might be just too much. 109 population in terms of military. Beastyqt struggling. He's got defender's advantage, but just doesn't have the units he needs. He's got the Abbey Kings healing up units, but he needs more. He needs desperately more. So we keep focusing on the White Tower. Samurai going to get on top of the villages. This could be devastating because Beastyqt, he probably won't be able to keep the White Tower, and if he does, at what cost? He's going to lose a lot of villages trying to do so. Samurai going on top of the villages, and well, Beastyqt now, he's going to struggle to hold this position for sure because the repairs will stop. Once the repairs stop, the Zutsu will clear this one out. He's still getting a bit of raiding here with the man-at-arms. Samurai getting involved, getting more forges, maybe prepping to get more Yorishiro inside of them. Having to get wood in a very exposed position, but again down the middle. And the repairs are still coming out for Beastyqt. He's got a Rebaldaquin, he's got horsemen, he's got man-at-arms. He's been able to hold this time actually, but Beastyqt now struggling on food of all things. The thing is, he's been kept off farms for so long. That's the big thing. He may not have lost all a significant amount of his villagers, but what he has lost is gathering time. So without a bank of food, it's going to be finding it very difficult to replace the army. Look at this, the Japanese even adding in some rams. He did get lightweight beams earlier on, of course. Down on the west side, the villagers here exposed. Samurai doing what they do best, chopping them up. 3 Rebaldaquins. Looks like Beastyqt trying to hold on with them as much as possible, going up against the infantry mass. Not a bad idea after all. He's going to try and get some value here. Oh, but Beastyqt can lose villages on wood, and yeah, wood's definitely going to become. I don't think he can gather wood from anywhere else. He's got a little bit of wood gathering here, but after that goes, where does he go from there? So many units here, Japanese. Wham. It's crazy, the population efficiency. He's also factoring in the 75% gather rate on the farms. This means he needs less villagers overall gathering. Nagano deploys. So do the Rebaldaquins. This could be a big fight, and I'm not so sure about this for the Japanese. The 3 Rebaldaquin could be getting a lot of value, but there doesn't seem like there's enough man-at-arms. Even with the siege, it feels like the samurai just pushing on through. Ozutsu going to focus on the siege now. Needs to take out the Rebaldaquins if he can, though, because I don't think he'd take too many fights like this. Any more shots? Yeah, the samurai are backing away. And Rebaldaquin push it back massively there for Beastyqt. So Beastyqt lives to fight another day. The charge is led by the English king. And Rebaldaquin keeping up, 3 of them. Wham, he's got to find a way of dealing with this siege. There is one relatively low on health. Now look at this. Decent amount of gold coming in for Wham. Bear in mind, he's not trading, and he's just getting it all passively. On the other hand, Beastyqt is trading. Let's just see how many he's got, actually. Yeah, 15 traders, not too bad. Looks like the samurai looking to try and push in once more. We're heading into almost 1 hour into the game, though. Absolute crazy game of Age of Empires 4. I'm not entirely sure who's going to win it. It does feel like, in a way, Wham does have some good momentum. It feels like every time that Wham pushes, he does more and more damage, at least infrastructurally. I think Beastyqt's only had really one massive sustained push, really. So it's looking a bit tricky for his side of things. Going to try and get a raid here with some knights once again. A couple of rams getting some free structures. Right, looks like maybe Wham's kind of fed up with the trade going on. The knights diving in on the Japanese economy, but the Shogunate Castle should take them down. And in fact, there's 2 Shogunate Castles, so yeah, that's going to be tough to get too much value. And I don't think Wham minds this at all. He'd be able to replace the villagers, but more importantly, defender's advantage should help him take these units out. Only 3 knights remain. Up in the north, yeah, Wham definitely contesting the trade route. He's had enough of it. He doesn't want Beastyqt to get any gold whatsoever if he can help it. One way of doing that is denying the trade. I think it makes a lot of sense to actually attack from this angle because he'll be able to stop the trade whilst he attacks. Speaking of attack, Samurai desperately trying to take down the knights. Look at this, he's got 3 more forges. 2 more forges, really. Shinto Priest coming out to heal on up. On the east side, still 2 rams working hard, forcing Beastyqt to send troops there and units there, looking to decap the sacred site. Beastyqt was struggling on gold as it was, and now it's going to struggle even more. I don't think he has any traders left, he doesn't. So Beastyqt just kind of has to rely on the enclosures tech. Beastyqt getting his army in position now. And he's got Man-at-Arms and Knights versus Ozutsu and Samurai. Don't forget the Katana Bannermen involved as well. I just think sheer numbers wise, at this point to be fair, does it necessarily matter what units you have? It's about sheer numbers, or although as I say that, with 4 Rebordoquin, that could do some significant damage to the Samurai, so he's got to be careful here, Wham. Knights and Man-at-Arms going towards the sacred site. He's diving on in. Samurai do take the fight as a front line. Man-at-Arms trying to get engagement, but they can't really. Rebordoquin trying to make their way through now. Springalds are helping out somewhat. The Zutsu focusing on them just as much as they can. I think the Zutsu need to focus on the Rebordoquin if they can. Samurai trying to run on top of the hill. They're finding it a little bit difficult because of the choke points. Man-at-Arms pushing it away quite nicely. Rebordoquins, yeah, he can't get too close to the Japanese. So Wham backing away. Beastyqt, he's recovering. Now all of a sudden, wait, is Beastyqt got his way back into the game? This is kind of crazy, right? Because he's actually winning this fight in a big way. Now he's being raided once again, but he should be able to deal with this. Meanwhile, Wham actually has got the Sacred Site timer and victory approaching, although that's probably going to be decapped relatively soon. He's once again pushing down on the right side. He's recognizing that wood's an issue. Beastyqt losing villages on wood once again, and he will clear this raid up. But he needs a big sustained push with siege. The trouble is, he's got siege alright, but nothing to take down production buildings, nothing to take down infrastructure. Couple of Man-at-Arms dealing with the Samurai and Rams on the east side. Should take that down and clear it on up. Right, well, Man-at-Arms trying to get some value on the west side and get a bit of raiding value. It's something that Beastyqt has done quite significantly in the game, actually. He has been raiding as much as he possibly can. He's going to try and get a ram involved too. He's making his way out to the westward line. Oh, talk about wood. That's a woodland that's kind of exposed, and Man-at-Arms might jump on that for Beastyqt. So Wham just trying to rebuild and recuperate. He's actually kind of struggling quite hard in farms and food, actually. Despite getting 2,000 food per minute, he's struggling to keep a bank of it. Tell you who's not, Beastyqt. 11,000 food in the bank. All of a sudden the resource count actually looking decent for Beastyqt, although this is a bit of a throwaway of Man-at-Arms. That's premium units, you can't really afford to do this. You try to get raiding value with them, but ultimately they can't even walk away from this fight. They just have to engage. The Zutsu are going to take out a couple on the retreat, or hand cannoneers rather, actually. The Samurai will chase with the rest. In fact, I want to see what the movement speed, I believe it's the same, 1.12. 1.12, yeah, so the same for the Samurai and Man-at-Arms. He's even stonewalls the forges with the Attrition inside of it. Although this one doesn't actually have one in, but it is what it is. Samurai engaging with the Knights on the southern sacred site. That will be decapped eventually. Look how many villagers have been killed. Almost 500 odd. Kind of crazy when you think about it. A Beastie just primarily relying on gold from the farms. Can't really ask for more than that. The trade has always been under pressure. Oh, it's going to lose a lot of villages here, Wham. That's unfortunate. I mean, he's going to be fighting underneath the keep, but Beastie won't mind that the knights are just so strong. Boiling oil comes on in. And again, the knights being so strong, they're backing away. Soaking up all sorts of damage. In the middle. Oh, villagers going to be chopped to pieces by the samurai once again. You see both players really trying to contest wood situations. Now the knights will be okay riding on in. The man-at-arms I'm not so sure about this actually, with the keep being there. Going to try and take down a forge or two. It's going to raid with the knights coming in from the south. Man-at-arms from the north, and looks like Beastie pushing on heavily. Even in the middle is winning a fight. He's starting to win some important engagements there, Beastie. And again, they're heading into a situation where he's struggling on gold. Trying to torch down the castle. Doesn't really have enough here at this stage. Needs more siege. It's looking a bit dicey for Wham, I gotta say. He needs to find a way to recover. He needs to keep farming, because food was a problem just a short while ago, and it could become a problem even again. He does now start to have a couple of hand cannoneers involved. Hand cannon Ashigaru. Now after this push is over, looks like Beastie queuing up again once in the middle to push on out with a big push follow-up. Trouble is, would it be met with the Japanese resistance? It seems like it. And Beastie also able to get the Seiko site in the middle. I kind of like this play, by the way, raiding with horsemen. I think he's chucked in a lot of man-at-arms, chucked in a lot of knights, premium units to raid with, which is not a bad idea if you've got banked up resources, 200 population, it's fine. Trouble for Beastie, doesn't really have the gold to keep on doing that, so he needs to send horsemen instead. That's a lot of Rebordican. Holy smokes, Beastie going at it with the Rebordigans for sure. We can get some good hits on the samurai, it will help him a lot. Here are the horsemen. Now I think at this point, it won't necessarily be the case that the horsemen are tasked to kill as many villagers. Well, they are going to try and kill as many villagers as they can, but ultimately, and they're going to try and idle them, but Wham not taking the bait. He's not garrisoning inside. He recognizes that, hey, I'll rather sacrifice a few villagers, but keep on gathering food rather than not gather any food and just come up with a couple more villagers extra than I otherwise would have. Pushing down the middle once again, but the slight difference this time is we've got hand cannon Ashigaru to join in with the samurai. Horsemen make their way through the forests. And down the middle now. This is looking a bit precarious. Like Beastie, he's got 200 population, but he's only got 57 military units. Now the big thing about this is he does have a lot of siege, right? The big problem with that is that it's kind of one of the situations where siege can either win you a fight in a big way or they can lose you a fight. The reason why is it takes so much population space that if you lose them and you can't replace them, it's a big deal, right? Oh, one good shot there with the Borderquin. Doesn't quite manage to get a second. 4 more Rebordiquins follow up. This is the big fight that might test the game actually. This could be a big situation here. If the samurai do come out on top, then it feels like the English might find it difficult to hold on. Wait, the Rebordiquins aren't really firing optimally. They weren't really in the fight for half of it. Man-at-arms are going to chase the back, but I'm not so sure the man-at-arms are enough numbers to do that. I think for Wham, the big issues are Rebordiquin, right? Wham just doesn't want to get involved with that. Doesn't want to take that fight, because if the Rebordiquins do manage to fire off, it will be significant damage. Wood on the east side is where Beastie is relying on. We're heading to almost 1 hour, 10 minutes. Guys, I hope you got refreshments, because this could still go for a while longer. Who really knows? All I know, this is an absolute meat grinder of a game. We talked about how this game could set itself up for the late game, considering how the civilizations play out, but I wasn't expecting this. I hope you guys didn't have dinner plans, because they're going to have to be delayed. The English army going through some walls and forests, sneakily raking their way through and trying to take down production buildings. That's one way to do it. Torch damage. This could be critical, this fight. In the choke point, which kind of favours the Rebordiquins actually in a way. Makes it a lot more difficult for the samurai to pinch around with. They're going to try and do so anyway. Oh no, there's two Republicans kind of got left behind. And they managed to get behind in the end. And a good front line for the English, although it's getting surrounded. Ozutsu, only a handful of them, but I tell you what, the hand cannon is getting a lot of that. But look at that massive damage coming out from the Republicans. They're doing so much damage to the samurai. Man-at-Arms definitely come out on top of that within the forest, although he's losing a lot of the siege. The Springald's coming in clutch here for the Japanese, and now without the Republicans, the man-at-arms, they are going to be left without a backline. The samurai should be able to take control of that situation. Hand cannoneers are doing great for the Japanese. He's clearing this one out. Beastie losing the army. Down to 50, up against 121 for the Japanese. The Japanese with a great food, well, a decent food bank. Not quite as much as the English, but he's got what he needs, right? There's no point having 10,000 food in the bank if you're never ever going to be using it. And that might be the case for Beastie, because look at this, the samurai running on in and 121 military units. This is going to be a hard hold for Beastie. It doesn't have the gold in the bank to replace the army just lost. And it needs anti-armored units, or yeah, dealing with this number of elite samurai. This is going to be a rough one. This is going to be a very rough hold. He's still trying to get a bit of pressure on the west side. He's raiding with horsemen, but at this point I don't think Wham cares. It feels like maybe this is the big fight we're expecting. He has got the White Tower back built up again, so he resets his economy, resets his defenses. The samurai, there's hand cannoneers, there's Ozutsu. The knights are going to try and dive in on the Ozutsu, and they should get a good wrap around. They're trying to do as much damage as they possibly can. This could come down to the knights doing the work they needed to do, but look at that, another batch of samurai to protect the Ozutsu once again. He deletes the walls, Beastie, to try and get a wrap around on the samurai. But there's just so many Ozutsu, they rip through the English knights. And the horseman is what's left behind to try and run away. The man-at-arms are being pushed heavily. Looks like Wham, he is going to push into the base. 130 military to 60. Beastie, he's got a hard hold on his hands, that's for sure. There is a Mangadel, which is just about to go down. In fact, there are two of them. One goes down really quickly. The Japanese have got the anti-siege, they've got Springalds, and they're taking everything down in their path. And the Ozutsu number is looking way too strong. He's going to take down the White Tower. It's on flames. Down she goes. The samurai, not where they needed to be though. The horsemen going to be taking down the Springalds around the back. The Ozutsu might be taken care of. No, it's just the Ozutsu are so strong. The horsemen, they can't cut it. He needs heavily armored units, but Beastie can't afford it in terms of gold. Samurai numbers starting to dwindle. There's also hand cannoneers running away with their lives whilst they can. That's actually kind of huge, by the way. Without meat shield in front of them, these guys need to retreat. The horsemen can be running after them. He needs samurai here. Wham, he needs them fast, and they're joining the fight now once again. The samurai going to come into the rescue for the Ozutsu. They get another massive shot off, and the horsemen need to back away once again. Beastie got 0 wood in the bank. It was a great hold there for Beastie. He's got units out once again. But slowly but surely you can see how Beastie's having to rely on horsemen. Wham continues with a heavy gold income and the heavy gold units. The samurai. And don't forget, it's getting free Ozutsu. Horsemen riding their way through down the hill. The samurai spotted it early. Gonna try and get a surround on this. Try and take the fight once again. Beastie trying to lead the lines, trying to push out a little bit, trying to lead the samurai back home. The horsemen are going to dive in, but they're going to be running into 2 shogunate castle keeps, town centers, whatever they are. And they're going to do all sorts of damage. I mean, the horsemen still ride on through onto the villages on farms. But this, we've seen this time and time again, and it's never been a killer blow, right? He just needs siege to take an infrastructure alongside it, and he doesn't have it. Man-at-arms going down the west side, chased by the samurai, elite samurai. And the big concern is that this could be a throwaway of units, right? Beastie trying to do his best to keep the English on the front foot, the Japanese on the back foot, but once he loses these premium units, like, he can't just keep replacing this. One thing to bear in mind as well, he doesn't have the wood for siege, so no more mass or Republican play for Beastie. Now 137 military here for Wham. He's maintaining his economy at 60 population, and he's still being able to afford units. Now Beastie, he's got a decent amount of gold coming in, doesn't actually have any traders, so I think actually the farms look like they're doing great work for him. Yeah, 900, almost 1,000 gold per minute because of them. Who's contesting the sacred site in the middle. Horsemen take care of it. Heading into 1 hour 15 minutes into the game, and looks like it's going to be another heavy hold for Beastyqt. It's been a crazy pendulum action game, and we've seen fights come back and forth. I don't know, I mean, it's anyone's guess if this is going to be the final fight or not. It might just be. It feels like the numbers haven't been this skewed before. 135 miniature to 60. I don't think we've seen a number ratio like this before, and this could be a devastating blow. It's got the white tower that is rebuilding, but it doesn't have it up just yet. It's going to take a bit more time. I don't think it's going to come up on time. Wham! Jumping on in with the samurai. Hand cannoneers behind, and the Azutsu. White tower, I don't think will ever go up. Mangonel deploys, but there's no other siege other than that. And the samurai are going to start taking down the villages if they can get on top of it. Even torch damage could help. White tower goes down before too long. The Azutsu take it off and finish it off. Might be going for the production buildings. He's going for the barracks first. Mangonel still deploying itself. Samurai still pretty decent health on them. And I think if the Azutsu now start to focus on the Berkshire Palace, that could be a way. But it looks like, you know, the Japanese, they're not rushing in, right? It's keeping the samurai on the front line, keeping the hand cannoneers and the Azutsu on the back. Always possibly looking to retreat if he needs to, because he will not want to lose the ranged units. He's going to lose the samurai front line and then back away with the hand cannoneers and Azutsu, and maybe look for another time to go again. He's going to get the sacred site behind this as well. You can see that play towards any sort of gold income they can get. Beastyqt, not for the first time, probably for the 10th time he's managed to hold. But each time that Wham comes on, it just seems a little bit closer to seeing the game out. Wham backing away. Going to be keeping those units, premium units, alive. 1 hour, 17 minutes on the clock. And it's anyone's guess who's going to win the game. Knights being sent on the west side once again. I'm a bit concerned about that, but actually, because that's actually most of his army. And if he sends us and he loses it, he won't have that much to defend with. The Japanese just about pushing through the middle once again, and this is a problem, right? The Knights are fast, but I don't think they're going to be fast enough to come back to this fight, and that's kind of where they needed. A couple of man-at-arms being sent forward. Oh, they're going to get ripped apart to shreds. That's a really bad first engagement for this defense. Azutsu clean things up. Hand cannoneers too. Samurai jumping on in, and now without those knights on the field here in this fight for Beastyqt, this is a problem. Wham going to push on in, and maybe that's exactly what Wham was waiting for. He's waiting for Beastyqt to push out with a couple of his army units, and then it's going to give the way for the samurai to ride on in, and well, Beastyqt is going to have a hard hold for sure. I don't think he can manage it this time. Could this be what sees out the game? Quite possibly. You know, those knights heading back now. They've had a bit of time to come back. Doesn't seem like they're there. Man-at-arms having to do it themselves. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen. After a mammoth 1 hour game, Beastyqt taps out a crazy game of Age of Empires 4. And the Japanese eventually take over Lipiny. Hope you guys enjoyed this casted game on YouTube. If you did, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. And if you watched till the end, make sure you subscribed so you can catch crazy Age of Empires 4's games like this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and see you next time.